Hello everyone, today on Scottish Memories we are chatting to Kaye Nicholson. How are you all? Hope you're all happy, healthy and well out there. Yep, today I am really excited because we are chatting to Kaye Nicholson. But just before we do get started, please remember, if you haven't already, remember to follow, subscribe to the podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a review. You've no idea how much that helps. That would be incredible. Or if you're watching on YouTube, like, subscribe, all the usual. But let's get kicked off with Kaye Nicholson. You will probably recognise Kaye from presenting the STV News. Kaye, hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thanks, Tony. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on. It genuinely means the world.
No problem at all. I'm looking forward to it.
So just before we get started, how are you? You happy and healthy and well and everything? You good?
I'm good, thanks. I've had a very busy summer, so this has been my first weekend just kind of pottering in my flat with my husband since about June or something. So
And you're the first time off and you're coming on and chatting to me. I'm honoured.
yeah, no, it's fine. It's great. It's to have a chance to do it. It's just, I think we're not alone in having the kind of first summer of freedom, obviously, for 3 years. So we've been fully embracing it.
Quite right. Quite right. It's been nice to sort of get out and about again, really.
It really has, definitely.
So, sorry,
when you're thinking you're so busy that you've not had time to do housework and things like that. So that's been the boring task. So I've been looking forward to this all weekend.
No, I've been trying to do bits. In lockdown, I started stuff in the house, tiling and everything like that. And now things are half done. And I'm like, oh, but life is back.
Same here.
So jumping in, where did you grow up then?
So I grew up on a beef farm just outside Forres in Murray. So
on a beef farm?
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was a lovely upbringing. I think, as ever, you kind of appreciate it more when you reflect on it as an adult. But yeah, no, it was great. So my dad, now my brother as well, still on that farm, and it was myself and my little sister and my little brother growing up with my folks. So
the amount of just outdoor space must have been endless for you. That must have been amazing.
It was great. There were lots of free range kids, I think we say, better to describe it. So lots of time.
I grew up with a couple of fields sort of near us, and I can always remember. Obviously, it's very different, but it was hay bales and things like that. There was lots of that, and us as kids just going in, and the farmer must have hated us because we just dove all over these things, making big haystacks and diving in them, and then going home and just being covered in midgie bites.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. And we loved it at a time when there was all the straw bales stacked up, although there was an incident where my brother might have pushed my sister and she ended up falling and breaking her arm. So, it had its perils, but no.
It's the risk you pay for a fun childhood.
Exactly, yeah. Lots of fresh air. Obviously, sometimes you were put to work. It gives you a good work ethic, being a farmer's daughter.
Yeah, was it early mornings? Did you get dragged out of bed in the mornings?
Early mornings, although not as early as I suppose if we were at a dairy. Because I think that's an even earlier alarm clock. But it was just the odd, I need a hand lifting stones off fields, or I need a hand shifting cows or sheep. So it keeps lots of good memories. Maybe some that we can't share here about some slightly fraught family outings. Shifting cows to different parts of the farm and things like that. But
no. That just sounds amazing. I need help with the cows. Come on, help me. That sounds amazing.
Exactly. And to be honest, even now when I go back home, because all my family are still back up north, I try and help out my dad and my brother where I can. It's the best way to spend time with them, to be honest. It's the only time I can catch up with them properly. So I'm like, what do you need done? Can I sit in the tractor with you? Or I was helping them shift bales last weekend, actually. So yeah, still a big part of my life.
That to me would just make me feel like a big. Can I go play in the tractor?
Yeah.
At 45, can I go play in the tractor, please?
It's good fun, and I suppose when you grow up with it, you forget that it's not the norm, obviously. So it was always a novelty for cousins and family friends and things like that who were coming to visit when we were kids as well. So it was always good.
Dragging the family in to help. Come on, let's help me dig a hole.
Exactly.
I don't. My mum and dad, when I was younger, very different. But I did have to help them with their shop. My mum and dad had a local sort of corner shop, post
All
office,
right.
sorry, corner shop, and my dad had to get up really early to get in. Well, not compared to your family, but early to get in and do the morning rolls,
Mhm.
get the morning papers ready, and everything like that. And I used to hate when they said come help and go in the morning, and I'm probably one of the few people that's been sacked as a teenager by their own parents. Because
Oh
apparently
dear.
I just ate more than I ever earned. I would just stand behind the counter and just, and they're like,
The
nah, I'm done.
temptation, yeah. That would be a high temptation right there.
So growing up then, I mean, I can't imagine, I mean, running a farm or being a farm family, that must have been like a 365 job,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
So
Pretty full on.
yeah, so did you get a chance to go sort of see Scotland as a kid, around local holidays or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, we were pretty lucky that we had a few lovely abroad holidays, although we had to sometimes be snuck out of school in term time because obviously that was the quieter time of year for the farm. And we had to obviously, a lot of the time it's just can't get away. It is a big tie. It's a way of life, really, not
Yeah.
just where you live. It's your office and your home, your when you live on a farm. But a lot of the time, I suppose, in the summer and things like that, we just made the most of the area around about us because it is gorgeous. We're
Yeah.
right by the River Fintorn. We're just up the road from the River Fintorn. So swimming in the river, making the most of the surroundings we had, and then just the local area, Fintorn Beach, Roseisle Beach. They were where we spent a lot of our kind of downtime. And then again, like I was touched on, your family or friends are visiting, making the most as well of all the kind of castles and things because we did. Murray's got quite a lot to offer. I think sometimes it gets almost undersold or overlooked because it's got its big neighbours, Royal Deeside, especially now,
Yeah.
and the Highlands. So yeah, lots of good things to do in Murray itself as well. So happy memories of enjoying the beach and the river.
Were the, I can't imagine it was hot beaches though, really.
No, no, I suppose not. Although, yeah, it's got its own wee microclimate at times, so you can get pretty lucky.
I have mentioned this a few times to a few people because Scottish beaches have came up a lot, and you don't expect us to have beautiful beaches, but we do.
We really do. Pretty unspoiled as well, I think. Nearing Beach is another example, just gorgeous. Lots of memories of us, maybe going to the harbour with a poke of chips. Um, a wee family day out.
I think most families were. With one of the things that we have in Scotland, which we're quite lucky about, is we're not big. It doesn't take long to get somewhere else, truthfully, in retrospect wise. So
Yeah, absolutely.
probably most of us. I'm an Edinburgh boy. It's quite close to the coast. You go down the road, you've got Portobello, you've got Musselburgh Harbour, and then you're out to East Lothian and Dunbar and things. And I can remember us sitting at the harbour and just like you said, getting a poke of chips, getting a chippy, getting an ice cream, and just sitting in the car and just
Yeah.
relaxing, really.
And what can be better, actually, a lot of the time?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
On the
absolutely.
East Coast, we're blessed with fewer midges most of the time.
Yeah, I suppose we are. Although I can't remember how I was talking about this fairly recently, but we do have clouds of midges. And
Yeah,
you must have got
we
that on the
do.
farm all the time. Just this, they all hover at one area.
Yeah, we do. And sadly, I must have tasty blood or something because packed. But one of the worst times actually we were at a family kind of road trip. We had for some reason just a two-man tent for all five of us. So
That's just bad planning there.
yeah, exactly. We didn't do it very often, clearly. My mum and dad, myself, my little sister, and my little brother. So I was what, 11? And then Emma was 9. Stuart would have been 6-ish. So we all crammed into this tent, camped at Fort William. I think we all got a bit fed up after that one night. Drove up to Gairloch. I think on the way we stopped at Loch Marie for a barbecue. But we actually, before we even lit the barbecue, there was a cloud of midges literally around my head. and we just had to pack up and get back in the car. So I sadly associate Loch Marie with quite bad memories of just midges.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's a shame it's a shame your parents didn't get out, set up the barbecue first, because the smoke that would have got rid of
Yeah,
it.
exactly. It was too bad already. So yeah. So I think we ended up giving up on the camping idea. We just ended up going into a hotel in Gairloch the second night.
I'm just trying to imagine your
Nice.
poor parents, because obviously having a young daughter myself now, she falls asleep on me in the most random positions. So being in a two-man tent with three of yous, they must just be lying across each other constantly.
And really wriggling around, and then it'd be snoring and all sorts. So yeah.
Your job as well must take you around Scotland a fair bit.
It does, yeah. So I'm based in Edinburgh predominantly, but we cover, Fife and the Lothians as well. I've been doing a lot for Scotland Tonight the last year or so, so that's got me kind of further afield. So I think actually, having grown up in Murray, I was at uni here in Edinburgh, then I moved back up north to work at a newspaper at the Press and Journal for 4 years, and then to come back down here again. I feel like I've got a kind of real appreciation of both, both city and country, if you like.
Do you find yourself switching in and out of sort of country brain and city brain? Do you kind of...
A wee bit, yeah, because it's funny, like when I'm home, I'm kind of like, right, wellies on, scruffy clothes on, so I know I'll get dirty, I'm running around with the dog or whatever. And then as soon as I'm back here, I'm kind of like, okay, right, jump on the bus, which obviously there are hardly any buses going there. In fact, there are no buses going past where my folks are. But here you kind of, you instantly switch between roles. It's funny. It's kind of like you have the best of both worlds, I think.
Do you have, this might be a little bit like Sophie's Choice, but do you have a favourite between sort of...
Oh, I don't think I could choose. I really I feel very lucky, the fact that I can do both, and I can just jump in the car and in 3 hours I'm back up north, seeing all the family, and I can slot right back in there, which is great. I'm very lucky. My brother's now living in the house that we grew up in, because he swapped with him and his now wife, and their kids have swapped with my mum and dad, which is quite a kind of traditional farmer thing to do at a certain point, that the kind of next generation move into the farmhouse. So it's great to still be able to go home and actually visit my brother in the house that we grew up in as well, which is pretty
I think that's a great idea,
yeah.
A sort of house swap thing. That sounds like a brilliant idea.
Keeps things interesting. It means my dad doesn't have to calve the cows anymore, so that's always good.
I'm sure he still gets dragged into it every now and then.
He will at some point, yeah, absolutely. But no, I love getting to travel around with work as well. It just is great. You see, I feel like I know Edinburgh so much better than I ever have, because you're obviously here, there, and everywhere going to visit people in their homes, or going to a different part of the city to cover a story. It's great. It's really good.
So this is going to sound a little bit random. So when you've been sort of going out of Edinburgh, say, is there areas like Scotland that you went to that you probably wouldn't have went to and you've just sort of fell in love with?
The East Neuk is probably one that I didn't really had never spent much time in before.
Right.
It's obviously very popular with holidaymakers, and you can see why, because it's just absolutely beautiful. But I was lucky enough to do a piece, this was a few years ago now, just before lockdown. We were doing a piece on kind of food tourism and how that's growing. And so I got the chance to just follow a kind of food expert around for the day. I filmed with him as he took a couple of German students on a food tour. And it was so much fun. We popped into a farm shop and bought some fresh food. And then we went to, I think it was Creole, bought some lobster and some crab. And he kind of like cooked something up, made a little picnic. And we had this, I was filming it, but I managed to get a little sample as well. I had a lovely kind of al fresco meal, right on the harbour. It was absolutely gorgeous and great weather for it as well. So that was really good fun. I think as well, last year we did a piece on transport. It was kind of all around, what are people's attitudes now that we're out of lockdown? Are people going back on public transport? Are they still nervous? So we did a kind of epic trip to Oban on the train, and then went back by bus. So that was all just, interesting to see. But on that train journey on the West Highland Way was absolutely gorgeous.
It really is. That's beautiful.
Stops all along the way. It was absolutely stunning. And I suppose, I'm generally just more of an East Coast girl. I don't mean that in any disrespect to the West, but just having grown up where I did and then living here, I'm usually more over in the east. So it was great to explore a different part of the west coast as well.
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean, I'm exactly the
I
same as
just
you.
remembered.
I'm an Edinburgh lad. I never get over that side, and it is
Yeah,
beautiful. It really is.
it's gorgeous. There's also I suppose island hopping as well. I've done that a couple of times now. When I was still living back up north, my husband and I just jumped in the car and thought, let's just go on a road trip and see where we end up. We had a few days off work. We thought, right, what the hell? Let's just go and see where we end up. And we ended up going to Skye, and then we jumped on a ferry over to Harris, and then up to Lewis. It was just
Nice.
stunning. Absolutely.
I've been lucky enough to go to Skye once, and colleagues of mine as well. They're sort of talking about heading up that way as well. It is one of these like there's one way on and
Yeah.
there's one way off, and that's it.
It really is. It's a kind of different world again, isn't it? We went to Isla. This was a few years ago now. There was a kind of big World War One commemoration because there were a few battleships lost off the coast of Isla. So I went to kind of cover it. There were lots of kind of Americans that had come over because I think it was an American ship that
Right.
was off the coast. And I thought Isla was gorgeous as well. It was somewhere I'd never been before, and it was just great to see. So I'd love to see more of the islands.
Again, going back to we're a small place, but
Mm,
with it being such a small country, there is still such drastic differences with each area in such a small
definitely.
space. It's incredible.
It is, and I think we're really fortunate, aren't we? Because as you say, it's a small country, but there's so much variety within that. You know, I'm ashamed to say I've got lots of family in Shetland and I've never been, so that's another one on my on my kind of to-do list. But I think that's the great thing about Scotland, isn't it? There's always something kind of around the corner that might surprise you as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, last year, and this sounds bad to say, but I only went to Loch Ness for the first time last year.
Ah,
Isn't that
I
terrible?
can't
Isn't it
believe
terrible?
that.
I know, it's awful. I mean, completely fell in love with it. It was
Mhm.
just, like a watercolor painting. It was
Yeah.
just beautiful. But at 44 at the time, going my first time to Loch Ness, I mean, I felt like a traitor.
Mind you, I suppose the thing is, you know, even I grew up less than an hour away from there, and I think generally we only went if we were bringing, we had visitors, so it's kind of like let's take them to Loch Ness, let's take them to Culloden Battlefield. There's a lot of places that you take for granted when they're on your doorstep.
Yeah.
Mm.
But then
And then of course,
it's the same here as well. It's the same in town.
yeah,
We've got all these, and I lived in London for a short period as well. I went to drama school in London, and it was the same when I lived there. You don't do these things in your general life. You
it's
only do them if you've got someone and you want to show them something.
it's so true. And then I suppose as you get older, you reach a different phase of your life. You then are you interested in different things, or you're kind of more aware and more appreciative of things. You know, I
Yeah.
think back when I was at uni here, classic Edinburgh uni student, staying in Marchmont beside the meadows. My radius was kind of like around a certain nightclub in Cav, or I should say, I was going to say Tollcross there, not Cav. I wasn't going to name drop it. And then Arthur Street, Princess Street, that was kind of my little world. And
Yeah.
now I'm hardly ever up that side of town. I'm down now in New Haven, Leith direction by the sea. And I kind of think, did we even appreciate that there was that we were so close to the coast when we were at uni? Probably not, because you had different priorities, I suppose.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
nightclub too often, probably.
I have lost a night or two in Cav in my time as well.
I
But
think
then,
we
but
all have.
when I was younger, my crowd, we were very much a Cowgate Grass Market
Uh-huh.
kind of sort of pubs and clubs round about there. That's where we always ended up. The Three Sisters, Finnegan's Wake, Biddy Milligan's, all these sort of places. That's
All
where
these kind
we
of slightly, you never quite know which street you're on, kind of underground.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
You
we
get
knew where
lost
we were. It
in
certainly was.
espionage. Which floor am I on? How am I going to get out of here?
I know. Espionage, which is gone now. It's away.
Gone.
It's now going to be that beautiful Virgin Hotel.
No.
I think I can
Very
say this now that
interesting.
espionage doesn't exist anymore. I don't think it hurts to say it now, but it was one of those things. It wasn't the greatest nightclub in the world.
No, it really wasn't. And you did always feel like you weren't sure which floor you were on, or you lost your friends and you thought, seriously, how am I getting out of here? I don't know if I'm, near the Cowgate or am I at the top of Victoria?
I know, it really did.
I don't know where the
And
hell
I think in our sort of head, if it ended up in espionage, it was kind of like, oh, it hadn't been a great night. If we end up there, it wasn't the greatest night in the world.
yeah. Although I suppose in the festival it was open till 5. That's how I ended up there
Which
often.
is usually why I ended up there as well.
But my excuse is I used to work at Prestonfield Hotel when I was a student, and we would do Taste of Scotland kind of shows, with all the traditional, address to supper and all that kind of stuff, address to haggis, and then we'd say, oh, we'd have a few drinks after work, and then we'd then go out in the festival, and then things would escalate from there. And then you go
That show at the Prestonfield, I know it
again.
very well. I know that Scottish show very well at the Prestonfield because I used to host a very similar show
Ah, right.
at the Jam House.
Okay.
It used to what was the Jam House? It's
Uh-huh.
closed now. Called the Spirit Scotland, and it was blatantly that show was born because of the Scottish show that you had at the Preston House because the tourists and everything love that show.
Oh, they loved it so much. They loved it so much. I'm ashamed to say I did once drop a haggis on a man that was there, an American tourist. I'll never live that down. I had quite a few plates at a time. That's my excuse anyway.
How many times did you get asked what's in the haggis?
A lot. A lot of times. A lot of times.
Did you tell the truth?
I think I usually did, yeah. But sometimes they looked like they didn't believe you, even when you did tell them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they were just kind of gobsmacked by Edinburgh by the time they got to the Taste of Scotland show. So they were pretty.
It was a great show. I don't know if
fun.
it's still the same now. I don't know if it's changed much now, but it's been a while since I've seen it. But it was a good show.
Yeah, it was good fun as well. Good fun to work at. Although you did have certain songs in your head for months afterwards, after hearing them on a loop every day of this. Very patriotic.
Yes, almost overly patriotic. Something like shortbread tin patriotic.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Lots of tartan.
Yeah, very much so. So with all these places then, you're traveling around Scotland with your job and everything, do you have a favourite? Do you, and this might sound like an odd question because I know sometimes you could get drawn to Scotland for nice reasons for a story, but obviously sometimes you could get drawn to Scotland for not so great reasons. But that aside, is there an area that if you're getting to or that you, for whatever reason you have to go to, you go, oh great, I love it when I'm there?
For work, particularly.
Well, it doesn't have to be work, but for every reason, there's an area that you get called to. You just like, I do love it when I go there.
Yeah. Oh, that's a tricky question. I suppose recently I actually had a really lovely kind of Saturday shift in North Berwick. And that was great. I mean, what's not to like about going to work but being in North Berwick? It was gorgeous. It was a beautiful day, and I was filming with a charity that had taken families there for the day. They were kind of low income families from Edinburgh, and it was a piece I was doing on the cost of living crisis.
Right.
And it's really lovely. They just got to go on the beach. They had barbecues. They were playing in sand, splashing around the water, and I just thought, this is the kind of, when you just think that the best, actually, it was great to see a charity doing such brilliant work, but also just, it was such a lovely location. So
I think as well, East Lothian, North Berwick, it gets totally, kind of forgot about, and it's stunning.
Really is. Absolutely. And I think generally just getting somewhere off the beaten track, it's always fun to go somewhere a wee bit different, be it for work or for play. Last summer, my husband and I had been up north for my brother's wedding, which was on the farm. It's great fun. And then the following week, we went camping at Loch Voyle, which is in the Trossachs, in the kind of national park, and it was just stunning. Again, you just think if you get the weather here, you don't really need to go abroad, do you?
No, not at all. You really don't. What you just made me think of as well when you said the Trossachs. I was like, we have some great names for things.
We do. We really do.
Like
It's all the
Ecclefechan.
ecofechin.
It's just a word that's just fun to say.
It is. Well, I was telling a colleague actually the other week we had some shots of the Northern Lights that had been captured on the northeast coast on the Moray Firth, and I'd seen that they'd written the place that it had been seen. There was this lovely picture that we're going to use on the TV, and I just said, "No, just a note for your pronunciation. It's not Findochty, it's Finechty." And my colleague was like, "Thank you so much. I had no idea."
Yeah, because that would have came back. That one would have came back.
Exactly. People are very precious for obvious reasons. We want to get these things right, don't we? So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean,
things right.
I'm sure we've got so many incredibly named places, but when you look at them on paper, if you've never heard of it before,
absolutely,
even someone Scottish, we're going to get it wrong.
We're going to get it wrong, exactly. So it's always best to check if you don't know.
So as I kind of sort of started to talk to you about earlier on before we started properly, I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky. People watch the channel from all over the world. Some of them have heritage. Some of them are just coming over. Some of them are, funnily enough, a lot of expats who've left when they're really young, but still, hold it in their heart. If someone's coming over from anywhere, what would be your top tips for if they're coming over to Scotland?
You know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say don't miss out Moray.
That's fair. Tell me about Moray.
I am like some kind of one-woman ambassador for Moray. My colleagues laugh at me in the Edinburgh office.
I don't know much about Moray. Tell me about Moray.
I just think it has a little bit of everything. As I touched on, the beaches are beautiful and they're pretty unspoiled. Findhorn is a gorgeous wee fishing village, which is just lovely. Gorgeous beach to walk on, a couple of nice pubs. What more can you want? You can go paddleboarding. It's lovely. Maybe spot some dolphins.
That's got me. Exactly.
Right, yeah. There's even a wee kind of boat trip you can do from there, which is great fun. It's really nice, and there are loads of other beautiful beaches all the way along. But then you've got castles. You've got Duffus Castle, Brodie Castle. Lots of stunning different. You've got Tuscadon Abbey. You can go and see the monks if you want.
Really?
Cathedral. Yeah, there's an operational monastery just kind of in between Elgin and Forres. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So there's that. And then obviously Malt Whisky Trail. Lots to do there. So it does kind of have a bit of everything. There are hills, not quite Monroe's, but just short of Ben Rinnis, which is a Corbett, so it's the next one down. And it's just a great place to be. There's a wee bit of everything. And yeah, that's why it's obviously I'm very biased, but I do feel like
you're allowed to be.
A wee bit,
But the only thing that comes into my head with Moray, and I get this a lot when I'm lucky enough to talk to people like yourself who are from different areas. When I hear Moray, my head goes, I think they beat us at rugby. When I used to play, I have no doubt they probably beat us at rugby, but because we got beat a lot, we weren't. But I definitely think Moray trounced us.
Really. There are a couple of good football team names as well. Forest Mechanics. I think that people are always like, "What is that a football team?" Good Highland League team there.
I distracted you from your top tips. Apart from Moray, is there any others?
Where else? I loved Loch Royal. I also this summer myself and a couple of old uni pals went down to Dumfries and Galloway, which we spent a wee bit of time there before. One was from there, and a couple of other friends from uni were from there. So we kind of, have a bit of a connection with that area. But we went and we decided to do a bit of the Southern Upland Way. So we stayed in Portpatrick, which is right on the coast. I think you can see Ireland on a clear day.
Wow.
It's absolutely stunning. And then we walked kind of a small part of the Southern Upland Way. We didn't walk all the way to Coburn's Path on the east coast. That would have definitely been a bit too much to chew over a couple of days. But the hope is eventually we will do the whole thing. So we went from Portpatrick up to kind of Glenluce area. So just really stunning, again, coastline, beautiful, pretty unspoiled part of the world. And again, the sun was shining. We've been really lucky with the weather. Absolutely. Yeah. But Portpatrick's gorgeous. It's like a really nice kind of seaside town. It's got a lovely vibe to it.
You see, sometimes when we see in Scotland when it's a sunny day, it really like we get, and I've had this on a couple of comments on videos lately as well. It's like when we have a blue sky, we really have a blue sky.
Yeah. And the sun is just splitting the sky. That's what it was like for us. I thought, oh, I don't think I've got enough sun cream on for this. I wasn't expecting that.
When do we ever take it with us
I
in
know, and
Scotland?
we're so peely wally. It's kind of like we need it. We really need
With this, I'm just stupid for not taking it, truthfully, but still.
it. I'm so fair, you know. I need
My
to.
wife's the same. My wife is a very fair, and we're just hoping that our daughter takes it from me rather than her, because she'll just reflect otherwise.
And then you think, yeah, the handful of days of the year where the sun is shining in Scotland, you've got to be careful. You just kind of need to stay inside when you're
I know.
that.
I know. There's a Billy Connolly bit that he used to do where he used to just get his arm. He used to go, see that? He goes, that's my natural colour. My natural colour is pale blue. It takes a week of tanning for us to go white.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true.
I like to finish
Oh,
off with what I call difficult questions for us Scots.
okay.
Okay, so
Interesting.
I don't know if you're vegetarian or if you're not. Whatever you are, feel free to
Guess
go.
what you think if I grew up on a beef farm.
Yeah, I would imagine that it would be blasphemy if you were vegetarian. Truthfully,
Exactly.
you should just go home one day and tell them that you are and see what their
Oh,
reaction
wow.
is.
I wonder how that would go down.
If you do, film it. I want to see it.
Yeah, I'd have to film it. I genuinely don't think my dad would believe me, actually. I don't think he would.
You might get disowned.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so shortbread or tablet?
Okay. If it was my grandma's tablet, I would say tablet because she was the absolute queen of tablet. But sadly, she's no longer here. So I think I will say she was also amazing at shortbread. I think I'll go for shortbread. I'll go for short.
I got very excited then because normally when I ask this question, no one ever mentions their gran, and it was a big thing for
Oh,
me. And I always
oh,
push, was it a gran thing? My mum's mum used to make tablet and shortbread all the time, and I loved it.
oh, my grandma too, and I'll bless her. I was actually telling someone about this other day. When I was at uni here in Edinburgh, I used to get the train from Aviemore. So they'd, my folks or whoever would drop me off at Aviemore and I'd get the train back down here. And my grandma would pack me off with a cool bag full of shortbread, tablet, and homemade soup.
Amazing.
With my suitcase and everything else, I had this massive cool bag full of grandma's home bakes and soup, which was incredible. So my flatmates all loved that as well because they got a taste of her tablet. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Did you
just that.
when your gran used to make shortbread? Did she do the thing? Because my gran did. She'd get a fork,
Yes.
puncture with a fork, and then she'd get her thumb
And do the wee bit
all
around.
the way around the
Yeah.
sides.
Oh, I love that so much. And it's just like I don't know how she did it. I'm terrible. I'm terrible at cooking and baking, to be honest. My sister is much better at that kind of stuff. I just clean up afterwards and eat it. Best way. But it was just that she just always got the consistency just right. And I think that's a difficult thing about tablet because you know how you're sometimes offered it and you're like, this is more like fudge.
Yeah.
It needs to be that more kind of sugary but really melt in your mouth.
And
That's
it's really difficult to make. It's really
It must be
difficult.
so hard. I remember watching her make it once and I just thought, this looks like some kind of alchemy. I don't know how she did just the
I've
right
tried
amount of
making
sugar.
I've tried but yes, there is an astounding amount of sugar
Hmm.
in both of them actually.
This is true.
But I did try.
With a cup of tea.
I've tried to make shortbread and I've tried to make tablet, and I can't say for either of them what I made could be called shortbread or tablet.
Your own different version of something.
Saying that, I still ate them.
Well, it's got to be done. Taste test.
Yeah.
Taste test all
Okay.
around.
Whiskey or iron brew?
Okay. Well, it would have to be both because I would drink the whiskey and then I'd have the iron brew the next day. I think that's how I would,
There is nothing better for a hangover
Yeah.
than Iron Brew.
Exactly. And I think, as you might be able, I don't know if you can see, we have a bit of a whiskey collection.
Oh, that's a nice collection there.
This is more my husband that's doing the collecting, but because he's a Speyside loon, he's from Dufton, where obviously Glenfiddich and Balvenie and a lot of the other distilleries.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it would have to be a Speyside dram. And I always think I need to be kind of in a safe space, either with him or my folks or my granda, bless him. Just have a couple of drams. I don't, not wise to drink it all night.
No, it's just about the taste.
Learned last year.
I'm going to show you something that a whiskey thing that I'm actually got, because I've got a little collection, but I've got this one, Pride of Place, right here. This is a Glenkinchie, which
nice.
is just down the road, East Lothian. But the reason I've got it is because on the bottle it's got distilled. It's got a date of distilled in 2008 and bottled in 2020.
Ooh.
And you don't see it, usually get that written on it. But me and my wife got together in 2008 and our daughter was born in 2020.
Amazing.
So I was like, I have to get that. That is never going to be drank. It's
just a special bottle to have.
A special bottle just to keep. But I think me and your husband would get on well.
Yeah, I think you would. You absolutely would.
Okay, they start to get a little bit harder.
Okay.
Now. Haggis, neeps and tatties or mince and tatties?
Haggis, neeps and tatties.
Oh, that one wasn't difficult.
I think I just mince and tatties just reminds me of kind of slightly boring, no offense to my mum, meals. As a kid, I would always eat it, but I was never a huge fan of it. I just think haggis, neeps and tatties is a little bit more interesting.
I'm with you there. I love a haggis, neeps and tatties. And when my mum used to give me mince and tatties as a kid, I would enjoy it. But it's a bit brown and white.
Yes, I think that's it. It's just, haggis, neeps and tatties, it's got a wee bit more going for it and a bit more spice to it. And I just quite like it. Although I'll always remember my granda saying years ago, it looks like something that an old manny would eat if he had no teeth left in his head. And I thought, well, that's also quite true.
Yeah.
Both, though, to be fair, mashed up. So
yeah, my mum used to give me a row as well because I was an awful eater. As a child, I was terrible. It was patty on toast was one of the few things I would eat, but it was generally your basics. It was burger, it was burgers, it was chips. I was an awful eater as a kid, and then I started playing rugby. And after the game, they would give you food. The club would give you food because you'd been playing rugby for 80 minutes. There you go, have a decent meal. I remember going home and they go, what did they give you? And I goes, oh, lovely mince and tatties. And she went, you never eat my mince and tatties, child. I got properly in trouble.
You're eating someone else's mince and tatties. How is that?
I know. Okay, black pudding or square sausage?
Black pudding.
See, that's an unusual one to pick that
really?
one. Not a lot of people pick that one.
No, I'm just not. I'd prefer a link sausage. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan. I feel like square sausages are too pink. Does that make sense?
yeah, and they don't taste the same.
Yeah, I know. They're just a bit. I love a black pudding with fried egg roll. Oh, that's good.
With I'm hungry now.
That's a very good combination. That sorts you right out.
Yeah, it does. Last but by no means least, tonics, tea cakes, or caramel wafers?
Again, I find this one quite easy. Caramel wafer. Yeah.
Caramel
I think there's more to it.
There is.
Yeah.
There is. Some people hate me for asking that question. Some people really hate me for asking that question. But there is there is more to a tonics tea cake. A caramel wafer. Tonics tea cake is a little bit more fancy.
Yeah, I think, and then also it's kind of like 2 bites and it's gone. I feel like caramel wafer, you can savor it a bit more.
I've got no idea who it was as well, but someone told me that they bit the end of their caramel wafers and then drank their tea through it.
Oh, I've never tried that, but I might now. But it is also a good companion for a cup of tea. That's true. A caramel wafer is just nice. Although
then again, so like shortbread and a cup of tea. I quite like that as well.
Yeah, that's good. Yes. Wash it down nicely. Oh God, you get me hungry now.
Kate, this has been absolutely joyous. I have loved chatting to you so much. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for putting up with all my promotion of Murray.
I'm going to push it
I
for you
knew it
now.
was going to happen. I just knew it. I always like this.
That's what it's for. People need to know about Murray.
They do. They do.
Thank you so much. Look after yourself.
You too. Thank you.
That was lovely. That was lovely. Kaye was absolutely... Kaye, thank you so much for joining me. For those of you, if you've been watching on YouTube, I'm sorry if Kaye's side of the conversation maybe didn't look so great. The image wasn't coming through amazingly, but you could hear her brilliantly. Kaye, thank you so much. That was a genuine joy to chat to you. That was great. I hope that if you've enjoyed that, guys, please, as always, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't, leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. But till next time, bye, humans.